Welcome to the Unveiled Epoch Echoes channel. Today, we're diving deep into an unexplored historical mystery. Beneath the rolling plains of western Kansas, where wheat fields ripple like a golden ocean under the steady breath of the American wind, and grain silos rise against sunsets painted in amber and rose. There exists a story that was never meant to be told, a story of concrete corridors and humming generators, of Cold War dread and secrets buried deeper than any missile silo. A story whispered only in fragments by those who once descended below the prairie and stepped into a hidden world known simply as Haven. In the autumn of 1962, when radios across the country crackled with news of Soviet ships and Cuban shores, and practiced duck-and-cover drills beneath fluorescent classroom lights, the federal government quietly acquired a stretch of farmland outside the modest town of Clearwater Ridge, a place so ordinary that even highway maps seem to forget it. And there, under the pretense of constructing a grain storage facility, engineers began drilling into the limestone bedrock, carving out a subterranean city designed to survive the unthinkable. Officially, it did not exist, yet trucks rolled in at night carrying steel beams, filtration systems, crates of canned goods stamped with expiration dates decades away, and prefabricated housing units that would never see sunlight. And the townspeople, accustomed to the rhythms of harvest and church bells, told themselves it was simply another government project, another symbol of American preparedness in a nervous age. The man overseeing the excavation was Colonel Arthur, a broad-shouldered veteran of World War II, whose calm demeanor concealed a mind sharpened by both strategy and sorrow. For he had witnessed cities reduced to ash overseas and believed, with a quiet intensity, that survival required foresight as much as courage. And alongside him worked Doctor, a civilian historian turned analyst, recruited not for her knowledge of weaponry, but for her expertise in ancient underground settlements. From the cliff dwellings of the Southwest to the labyrinthine cities carved beneath Anatolian soil thousands of years before America was even imagined. Often stood at the lip of the excavation shaft in her hard hat and sensible shoes, gazing down as drills bit into stone, and she would speak softly of forgotten civilizations that had once retreated beneath the earth during times of invasion and catastrophe, nodding how humanity's instinct to burrow for safety was as old as fear itself. And Colonel, though impatient with what he called academic poetry, listened nonetheless, sensing that Haven was not merely a military installation, but part of a much older pattern etched into human history. As months turned into years and tensions between superpowers ebbed and surged like invisible tides, the underground city took shape. Complete with dormitories lined in pale green paint, a hospital wing with surgical lights that glowed like artificial suns, a schoolroom stocked with textbooks describing a world that might no longer exist above, and a central command chamber dominated by a massive map of the United States, studded with tiny bulbs ready to flicker in the event of attack, and all of it sealed behind blast doors thick enough to withstand the fury of a nuclear shockwave. Yet Haven was not designed solely for generals and politicians. It was intended to house a cross-section of American life, 200 carefully selected civilians chosen for their skills, a baker from Ohio, a nurse from Georgia, a radio technician from Oregon, families who were told only that they were participating in a classified continuity program vital to national survival. And when they arrived by bus under cover of darkness, descending an elevator hidden inside a false grain silo. They carried suitcases packed with sweaters and family photographs, unaware that they were stepping into a rehearsal for the end of the world. Life below ground unfolded with eerie normalcy, children riding tricycles down polished corridors, the scent of fresh bread drifting from the communal kitchen. Movie nights projected against concrete walls, while above them seasons shifted and thunderstorms rolled across the prairie unnoticed, and found herself both comforted and unsettled by how quickly humans adapt, how readily they accept ceilings of stone in place of open sky. It was during one quiet evening in October of 1963, as President Kennedy's speeches echoed faintly from a transistor radio in the recreation hall, that made a discovery that would alter everything. For while reviewing the original geological surveys, she noticed anomalies in the limestone strata. Hollow pockets extending beyond the mapped excavation zones, cavities that predated Haven by centuries if not, and driven by equal parts curiosity and unease. She persuaded Colonel to authorize a limited exploration beyond the established perimeter. Accompanied by 2 engineers and armed with lanterns and measuring equipment, they breached a thin wall of rock and entered a natural cavern whose air felt older, cooler, touched by a stillness that seemed to muffle even their own breathing. And there, etched into the stone, they found markings unlike any modern graffiti. Symbols arranged in spirals and lines that resembled both Native American petroglyphs and something far more ancient. Patterns echoing the same geometric designs had studied in photographs of subterranean cities half a world away. The cavern opened into a network of tunnels, clearly shaped by human hands long before bulldozers and blueprints. And within one chamber, they uncovered remnants of clay vessels and charcoal traces, suggesting that centuries earlier. Perhaps during a time of drought or conflict lost to recorded history, a community had sought refuge beneath these very plains, building their own hidden sanctuary in defiance of whatever calamity stalked the surface. The revelation unsettled Colonel more than any Soviet missile report, for it suggested that Haven was not an unprecedented marvel of modern engineering, but a continuation of a forgotten refuge layered atop another, as if the earth itself invited humanity to hide when fear grew too great, and he ordered the cavern sealed from the official blueprints, classified beyond top secret, while quietly documented every carving in a leather-bound journal she kept hidden among her personal belongings. As the Cold War intensified, and the world teetered during crises that flickered across television screens in black and white, Haven conducted drills simulating total annihilation, sirens wailing through corridors while families hurried to assigned stations. And in those rehearsals, sometimes imagined the ancient inhabitants of the cavern above her, clutching their own children as thunder or enemy footsteps echoed overhead. And she began to suspect that the true purpose of Haven was not merely survival but memory, a testament to humanity's recurring dance with destruction. The climax came in the spring of 1965, when seismic sensors registered a distant shockwave from a weapons test gone awry in the Pacific, misinterpreted by automated systems as the first strike of a global exchange, and within seconds, blast doors slammed shut. Red lights pulsed along the ceilings, and Haven shifted from experiment to reality, sealing its inhabitants underground as communication lines to the surface went dark. And for 36 breathless hours, the community lived as though the world above had burned away, rationing food, whispering prayers. Colonel issuing calm directives, while privately wrestling with the possibility that his underground city might become a tomb. During that suspended time, ventured once more to the hidden cavern, seeking solace among the ancient carvings. And there she felt a profound stillness, an understanding that fear has visited every generation, yet never fully extinguished the human spirit. And when at last contact was restored and the false alarm revealed, when sunlight once again filtered down the elevator shaft and the blast doors groaned open, Haven's residents emerged blinking into a perfectly ordinary Kansas afternoon. The wheat fields swaying as though nothing had happened, the sky impossibly wide and forgiving. In the months that followed, funding for Haven dwindled as public attention shifted and softened the edges of paranoia. And eventually the underground city was decommissioned, its corridors emptied, its generators silenced. Its existence folded into classified archives, while Clearwater Ridge returned to its quiet anonymity. Farmers planting crops above a sleeping labyrinth of concrete and older stone. Colonel retired to a modest home near the Atlantic coast, carrying with him the weight of secrets and a cautious optimism about humanity's future, and became a professor, weaving subtle references to subterranean refuges into her lectures about ancient civilizations, never fully revealing that she had walked through one built in her own time. Decades later, when documents surfaced, an urban explorer began whispering about a buried city beneath Kansas fields. Few understood that Haven rested atop an even older sanctuary, that layers of fear and hope lay stacked like sediment beneath America's heartland. And on certain windless nights, locals claim you can stand in those fields and sense a faint vibration below, as if the earth remembers the footsteps of those who once hid within it, reminding us that while the threat of destruction may rise and fall with political tides, the deeper story is one of resilience, of communities choosing to endure, of humanity's quiet determination to carve shelter from stone and light from darkness. And perhaps that is the true legacy of the underground city built during the Cold War. Not a monument to dread, but a testament to the enduring belief that even in the shadow of apocalypse, life will find a way to gather, to hope, and to wait patiently for the doors to open once more. This mysterious journey ends here. But stay tuned for more untold stories in our next video. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new stories. Thank you and see you again.